Hi, I'm Frank Blakely with Guaranteed Rate.
And I'm Hajir Najati.
And today we're here with Jeff Seitz with Blue Water Credit. And with everything happening in the COVID world, we want him to just talk a little bit about it and help answer some questions. So, Jeff, first off, why don't you tell us who you are besides being Jeff Seitz, and who your company is and what you guys do?
Sure. So my name is Jeff Seitz. I own Blue Water Credit. We're a legal and ethical credit repair company. We've been around since 2008, and over the past 12 years, we've actually been able to help repair just over 10,000 clients. So it's been a big milestone we just cracked. So grateful for the chance to be on this with you.
That's awesome.
That is great. So repair credit. Can you talk a little about that? Because that kind of it's like the mortgage industry, right? After housing crisis, that you have, people have a different perception of repair credit. So can you just speak to that? Because I know ethical, and we've known you for, I think, about 10 years as well. So that's why you're on the call.
Yeah. So with credit, we do free consultation. We're going to look at negative accounts. We're going to look at debt. We're going to look at if they don't have enough open accounts. And we're basically going to be like a credit coach. We're going to be making sure that their scores are optimized so that they can get the best interest rate on their home loan. So as you guys know, credit score is going to have a big factor with what rate they qualify for. So we always do free consultation. Appointments usually about 15 to 20 minutes. We review credit, give advice, and then we have a credit repair team and then also a debt settlement team. And then we just brought on an attorney on staff. So if we have to get into any pre-litigation or litigation, we can help that out as well.
That's awesome. You mentioned ethical, and can you elaborate on that? Is there any competition out there that we need to know of?
Yeah, sure. So, seeing as many credit reports as I have, is not everyone's a good candidate for credit repair. So we go by the golden rule, which is treat people how we want to be treated. So if we keep stats on what accounts we're successful in getting fixed or repaired, and if it's something that we don't have a good success rate in, we'll be upfront with the client and say, hey, based on past experience, we don't feel like credit repair is a good fit for you. However, these are things we'd recommend you doing on your own. And, over the course of time, your credit will heal on its own.
Yeah, we actually started using you with my clients because you were turning down, not as many, but you were turning down a good amount of people, which kind of showed me like, hey, they don't want to take people's money. They want to get the results of the job. So it's always a big testament to me because, Hajir and I turn down people for refinances all the time, not necessarily because we can't do a loan for them, but because it just doesn't benefit them. So it's a big thing. So
yeah, that's what it's about. I always look at a ROI. What's the return on their investment, their time? And if it doesn't make sense, if I was in their shoes, and I would want to get advice with the information that I know. So making sure that it's a good fit for the client, and and we do have 100% money back guarantee. So if somebody's not satisfied, we do offer a full refund. So yeah, that's one of our policies too.
That's great.
That's great. Yeah, on my side, I had clients that used other type of credit repairs, and all that has been done was just disputing the negative without actually taking care of them. And we had some difficulties after the fact, but in the few that I worked with you, I never had that. So yeah, that's great. So we are in this COVID environment now, and the CARE Act passed in March 27th with the stimulus checks and all of those, and then the PPP loans and small business SBA loans and all of those. We all know about that. But what was the impact on the credit? What was that word of the Fair Credit Reporting Act that was included there?
Yeah, so with the CARES Act that was signed, the changes made to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, there was a new word that was added, and it's called accommodation. And basically, it's a deal, if you will, that the creditors, all federal loans are required to make an accommodation. So if it's a federal mortgage or a federal school loan, the client has to call in and let them know that they've suffered some sort of financial hardship, and then let them know they'd like to find out what kind of accommodations that they can make. So accommodations could be like forbearance, it could be deferment, could be partial payments, and it could be a potential loan modification. So the important thing with this is that you do have to call in to each one of your creditors. Federal loans are required to offer accommodation. Most other companies are making accommodations. And we actually just wrote an ebook on this with links to every major creditor and kind of a summary of what they're offering. So if anybody's interested, they could go to bluewatercredit.com, go to our blog section, and then there's a 7-page ebook that we just finished. It has all kinds of information about this on it that they can have for free.
So accommodation is basically just like a stamp on the credit report in the rating that's saying that it happened during this time. And then when creditors or people applying for things, we're supposed to know what that accommodation means when it's noted on a credit report. Is that right?
So to give you guys kind of like a surface level, under the accommodation, as long as the account was current, and as long as the client sticks to that deal or that arrangement that they made, there will be no negative reporting on the credit report. Now, if the account does go into forbearance, there is coding on the credit report that will show that it was in forbearance. And Frank, maybe you can talk on this, but I have heard that with forbearance on a credit report with the coding, it may delay their ability to get a home loan. Do you know what that would look like?
Yeah, so I mean, that was one of the questions I was going to ask is that, when we always, everybody thinks so much about the score, but when we're working with approving somebody, I mean, Hajir knows obviously about this as well. We check 12 months payment history if they have a current mortgage, and we have to make sure it's consecutive payments. We also do the same for rent, right? So if somebody's renting, we have to confirm that they have 12 consecutive payments. So I was wondering if those accommodations would, even though it shows that they're still in good history, does it still show the consecutive payments, or is it just not affecting them as negative on their credit report?
Yeah, so the accommodation is going to have no impact on the credit score as long as all of their accounts were current. And so what I have heard from some underwriters is there is a 12-month delay from eligibility for after the forbearance is up. So even though their score is not being affected, it may have an impact on how soon they can get a new home loan.
Yeah, so obviously if there's a federal guaranteed loan or not, that would be different between the portfolio lenders and others. We still don't know. We're waiting for them to release that information and figure this out, at what's going to happen after the fact on these forbearances. But would you recommend when somebody is applying for any of these accommodations or forbearance or anything else, get that in writing? Would you see that there's a possibility of mistakes happening on the credit reports later on that you guys can help fixing if there's a document?
Absolutely. That's the number one thing that you want to do is, unfortunately, now there's going to be long hold times. And so you want to be persistent with your calls. You want to call probably in off-peak hours. So first thing in the morning or maybe towards the end of the day. You want to make sure that you document everything. So keep notes, who you called in, if they have an employee ID number, first and last name. And if they're able to give you something in writing, that will help protect you because personally, my opinion is that there is going to be a lot of mistakes made out of this because of the volume of calls and the volume of people that are calling in. And so the more you can do to protect yourself, the better. So you want to try to get it in writing. You're going to have to call each creditor. And one thing I wanted to point out too is, let's say your payment was due on the first of the month and you don't have the ability to pay because you were laid off or your hours were cut. Well, you technically have 30 days from the payment due date before you have a 30-day late marked on your credit report. So you have 30 days to call each of your creditors and try to make some sort of accommodation or deal with them. Like I said, make sure that you're calling all of them. Pull a copy of your credit report. You can get a free credit report at annualcreditreport.com. That used to be only once per year. Now you can get one credit report per week there for free. It's annualcreditreport.com. And then the creditor's information will be on there. You can call the creditor, and like I said, document everything, and you want to try to get something in writing.
That's great information, because I had no idea about that they're doing it weekly now. And I know a lot of people have credit monitoring systems too, which I think is a really good thing to protect against something popping up. But most of those only track one bureau at a time. And even though something doesn't report on one bureau, it might report on the others. So it's important to do what you're saying. So I know from our standpoint, when we're qualifying loans, we have people all the time that talk to a creditor, and to back up what Hajir's saying and what you just said, and they say, no, there shouldn't be any issues. But then when we go check their credit months, years, whatever time frame later, it's there, right? So documentation for a lengthy period of time is always important. And I think as of last week, there was already over 3 million people that filed for forbearance. So the numbers are hitting hard, right? So really good, important. So I also read in your article that you put, your newsletter, disaster codes, right? And how those disaster codes may come back and play a role in that, but you also said it can negatively affect your credit. So we have accommodations in one corner, and now we have these disaster codes. Can you explain disaster codes and how that might impact your credit as well?
Yeah, so the disaster relief codes were designed for people that were affected by natural disasters. So like hurricanes, fires, things like that. And then they're considering our pandemic, obviously a natural disaster too. So the creditor can put a natural disaster code on the credit report. If any of you are really interested in what that looks like, the code is AW. I don't even know what AW stands for, but it's a natural disaster code. What's interesting about that is the specific credit score used in your industry is called a FICO score. And FICO does not recognize a disaster code. So what that means is when you pull credit, Frank, is if there's a natural disaster code on it, the credit score will be identical to prior to not having the natural disaster code. Now, however, what's interesting is like Credit Karma, they use what's called a Vantage credit score. And most credit monitoring is going to give you what's called a Vantage credit score, not FICO. Now, Vantage credit scores, if there's an AW code on the credit report, those accounts with an AW coding are not going to be scored negatively. So if that account went in collections and it has an AW account on there, your Credit Karma score is going to be much higher than if you pull credit and try to get someone pre-qualified for a home loan.
Yeah, so I think that's what's going to be important, right, is the difference in verbiage, mm-hmm. right? Because I can talk to a creditor and they say, yeah, it's not going to hurt your credit. But when we go into a qualifying mentality, what we don't, and Hajir mentioned it, we don't know what the new guidelines are going to be. We know what we have today, but how are those guidelines going to be portrayed down in the future? So just making sure it's double checking. And I think it's important Hajir and I have been saying over here, forbearance is there for a reason. It is definitely something that should be used when necessary. But we've also heard on the other side, when people have money, they can make their payments, and they're just choosing to go on forbearance. And we're just like, really? Like, why? And they think they're working the system when in fact, let's say interest rates go down again, or they want to buy a house, and then all of a sudden they can't, right? Because of trying to, I mean, I don't have any other saying they say, but work the system. And that's what it is. So is there anything else that we should probably during this time, like we want to make sure people know and can help them out?
Yeah. So if somebody is interested in getting pre-qualified for a mortgage, obviously, Frank, they need to call you and have you run credit. If somebody wants to get a mortgage credit score online, you can buy one at myfico.com. That's myfico.com. You can get it there. It is $30 to get your scores. But it's a soft inquiry, so it doesn't impact the score at all. And that's the only website you can actually get the same scores that you pull, Frank. So myfico.com is the best one there. Realize too that during economic hardship like this, I know a lot of us our credit card balances are going up. One max out credit card can lower your score by up to 40 points. So if you're maxing out all of your credit cards, you can significantly impact your credit score. And so the good news about that is once you get back on your feet financially, FICO doesn't have memory. So as soon as you pay down your credit cards, within 30 days, your credit score is going to rebound right where it was prior to the cards being maxed out. So realize that while your cards have higher balances, your score will be lower because of that.
Great. Or you can call Hajir too, because he was my loan officer. So I know how good he is with loans as well.
And Frank was my loan officer. Jeff, question about that. So these forbearances accommodations is not just about the mortgages, but also car loans, credit cards, and everything else. Mm-hmm. Right. And do you know anything about what would be the repayments of these delays? Or
I have.
accrued
So
interest?
what's interesting about this is I've heard varying degrees. So I've heard that some creditors are putting all those deferred payments at the very end of the loan. So if you had a 30-year loan or whatever, then all of those payments are due at the end of the loan. I have heard some creditors that if you have a $2,000 payment and you defer it for 6 months, that as soon as the 7th month hits, that they're wanting the full, all those payments up front. And then I have heard of lenders where they're wanting all the deferred payments paid back over a 12-year period or 12-month period, sorry. And so it really varies by the creditor. Obviously, if you're in a financial hardship now, 6 or 12 months down the road, unless you get back on your feet really quick, odds are if you have to repay all those payments right away, you're not going to be in a good spot financially. So make sure that that's clear and you understand, what you're getting into prior to making that arrangement. And then obviously in your best interest, if you can have those payments pushed to the end of the loan, that would probably be the safest thing for you to do financially.
Yeah, so even though they start with F, it doesn't mean free.
Exactly.
Right.
Or forgiven.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, we got some F's going on.
Yeah.
Because then you might say the other F if something comes back to get you. So be careful with that. Yeah. So, well, Hajir, I don't know if you have any questions, but I think that based on the information that we're looking to help out our clients now with everything that's going on, I think it's some valuable information. And Jeff, can you once again let everybody know how to get in touch with you if they need to, or if they have more specific questions about getting their credit repaired and getting some assistance?
You bet. So we always offer a free consultation. Appointment can be over the phone. It's usually about 15 minutes long. They can go to our website, which is bluewatercredit.com. You can register for an appointment there, or you can call our office. We're still open and operating. Phone number is 916-315-9190. And just want to say thanks again for the chance to help.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.